Welcome, welcome one and all, I'm Coriander Stone, and a couple of days ago I saw the new Heaven's Feel movie in theaters. Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel is the last of the 3 Fate routes to be adapted. And before I can give it any sort of a review, I have to address the one biggest issue that some people are going to have with the movie. And that is, the bar of entry is damn high. In order to get the movie, you have to see both the original Fate Zero anime and at least Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, if not also the Studio Dean adaptation. And so, this is going to be an issue for a lot of people. And usually it would be an issue for me. I'm one of those people who believes that a work should stand or fall on its own merit. If it's a sequel, it's a sequel, but if it's a standalone season or show that's a spin-off of another show, it really bothers me when the series relies on you having seen the original. That's not how it works, that's a sequel. And a show needs to be able to stand on its own 2 feet for people who haven't seen the original. For example, I'm one of those people who gets rather annoyed at Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood because it takes for granted the idea that you've seen the original Fullmetal Alchemist anime. And sure, that may have been true at the time it was released, but at this point a lot of people have not seen that one, and so they don't get the full experience of the series. My idea of a good spin-off or retelling of another narrative within a pre-existing universe is, think The Unlimited Hyobu Kyosuke, or the currently airing UQ Holder. The Unlimited is a spin-off series from Zadio Kara's Children, and UQ Holder is a spin-off of the Negima series. As someone who has never seen even a minute of either Negima or Zadio Kara's Children, I can attest that both series are standalone. Sure, you might have gotten more from it, having watched the original, but I was able to pick up perfectly well where the series began. That's how one should do one of these sorts of same-universe narratives. And yet, despite my strong predilection for preferring anime to be able to stand on their own 2 feet, I actually did not have any problem with the high entrance bar for this, and I'm going to explain why. See, Heaven's Feel is not standalone in the same way. Heaven's Feel is the final route of the Fate Stay Night visual novel. The first, the Fate route, was adapted by Studio Dean years ago, and then the second was adapted by Studio Ufotable a few years back. The second route, Unlimited Blade Works, is definitely a series you need to watch before watching the movie, as is the prequel, Fate Zero, which was released by Ufotable back in 2012. And that's the point. Heaven's Feel is the final route of the game. It isn't the first route. It isn't a game with only one route. It isn't a manga that was just adapted multiple times. It is a 3-route video game. So expecting to be able to pick up with the third and final route without any problem and without missing out on anything is like going into Undertale and going straight to True Pacifists mode, or going into Fire Emblem Fates and playing Revelations first. You're not going to understand everything, and you're not going to get the full story. There's a reason why in Undertale you can't play True Pacifist first. Even if you play your first run in Pacifist mode, you're still going to end up getting the neutral mode ending no matter what, because you have to do that first in order to understand the experience that is True Pacifist's ending. And Heaven's Feel is the same way. You're not going to be able to understand it properly, even if you play the visual novel on its own, because it's not a standalone work. And I actually really appreciate the fact that Ufotable understood this and decided to make the most of it. Because they knew that no one was going to be able to fully get the story without going through the other series, which they had already created adaptations of, they made that a high bar and used that as an excuse to cut so much of what every Fate fan has seen over and over again. And honestly, I'm just really damn grateful to not have had to sit through an explanation of what the heck a servant is and how the Holy Grail War works for a 7th time. The creators knew that anyone sitting down to watch the movie would have already watched both of their other Fate anime, and so they knew that you'll have seen that scene with Archer and Lancer fighting, Shiro getting stabbed, Tosaka saving him, and Saber being summoned already at least once, if not multiple times if you've already watched the Studio Dean adaptation as well. So for that reason, they cut through that and instead spend that time on something much more interesting. And that is some anime original content building up the relationship between Shiro and Sakura. I actually have to talk about this one for a minute too. See, As much as I love both Rin Tosaka and Saber, and saw them as some of the best characters in their respective anime, Saber in the original Stay Night Route and Tosaka in Unlimited Blade Works, I was never invested with either of their relationships with Shiro Emiya because Shiro Emiya is one of my least favorite protagonists in anything ever. This Shiro Emiya version is not much better than his other counterparts, although he is slightly improved just because the movie doesn't have enough time for him to go yelling and whining and being obnoxious all over the place. But even so, he's still not an amazing character. Still, in the other two Fate Stay Night adaptation anime, I loved the heroine, irrelevant of and occasionally despite their caring for Shiro, because Shiro is just frankly annoying, and their relationships didn't have much depth. Here, however, honestly I was surprised how much I grew to care about the relationship between Shiro and Sakura, and the reason was this beginning of the movie. The movie begins by telling us how Sakura came to work for Shiro and keep house for him, and we slowly see their relationship develop over a course of years. And this gave the movie a real emotional base and strength, which was important because part of the thing was that with this movie, the vast amount of plot points that the series had to cover over the course of just 2 hours, and the fact that a movie means that you have intrinsically less time to just wander around and sidetrack things with the other characters, meant that almost the entire rest of the cast gets shortchanged. Hell, I think Archer gets like 3 lines in the entire movie. Saber gets maybe 1 or 2 more than he does, and Tosaka maybe 2 or 3 beyond that. But understanding that this is going to be an issue, the writers addressed this in 2 strong ways that I really appreciated. The first was, again, giving us this time with Sakura and Shiro, and so developing their relationship as the emotional core of the series. By giving us a strong, built-up, developed relationship that we actually cared about. Sakura's story is a heart-wrenching one, and even though I still don't care about Shiro, I do at least understand why they care about each other, because they do feel really like a family in this, which I have to say is a lot better than either of the other 2 adaptations in this aspect. I also really feel for Sakura and the way she worries about him when he starts getting involved in the Holy Grail War, especially considering everything we know about Sakura and her history with the Holy Grail War. Even if Shiro is still annoying and still has that great scene where he jumps in front of Saber and gets hit by Berserker. That was one thing I did not miss in UBW. That said, that scene was still miles better than its Studio Dean counterpoint because of the other thing that the writers did to increase the character depth within the show. That is, they knew they weren't going to have time to provide new character development for Saber, Archer, or any of the other returning characters, and so rather than that, they knew, again, going in, that since anyone watching Heaven's Feel was supposed to have watched Fate Zero first, they decided, rather than drawing on new character development in Heaven's Feel, they would draw on old character development that the characters had already gone through in order to reinforce character depths already developed in past adaptations. There are a lot of moments of this, and they're all really strong. From Shiro asking Sakura about her hero, insert Karia, to Archer making references to being currently unable to pursue his own agenda, to Assassin talking about his unreality. But by far the best moment of this, at least in my opinion, is the one that takes place during this fight between Saber and Berserker. The movie puts incredible amounts of weight on the interactions between Saber and Ilya because Ilya is Kiritsugu and Irisfield's daughter. Kiritsugu may have been Saber's former master, who Saber disliked, but Irisfield and Saber did create a true and genuine friendship in their time together, and so when Saber recognizes Ilya, as she immediately does since Ilya does so resemble her mother, Saber is unable to go up against Ilya. My favorite moment of this is during this fight with Berserker. The reason Saber in this version is open to that blow that Shiro shields her from is because she chooses to go after Berserker instead of after Berserker's master. There's a moment when she could have targeted Ilya and she decides not to because she can't bear to hurt Irisfield's daughter. And the movie doesn't need to say any of this. The lighting and animation of Saber's face, connected with the foreknowledge that all of the audience has, is enough to portray this and give Saber's actions depth and meaning despite the fact that she doesn't get the lines to explain herself. I love that. Anyway, moving back to formatting and away from characters, the reason that Fate Stay Night Heaven's Seal was adapted into a movie instead of a series is pretty obvious once you see it. That is to say, we go through the first 2/3 of the movie, roughly 4 episodes worth of time, with a grand total of only 2 fight scenes, one of which being that abortive fight with Berserker and the other one being equally short. I won't spoil that one, but I will say this, that while it is short, it is goddamn one of the best fight scenes I have ever seen in anime, and not for the usual reasons. More on this in another video. The final third of the movie, however, has a ton of action. But in a series, it would have been a problem because the first few episodes would have felt incredibly slow-paced. Since this was a movie, however, they didn't have to worry about that and could pace it out at a speed that made sense for the movie. Speaking of, the movie uses constant cuts from scene to scene instead of more normal transitions. At first, I thought that was a little weird, but as the movie went on, the use of cuts seemed to make more and more sense to me. See, the constant cutting away was jarring. On purpose, or at least that's how it seems to me. It's jarring and creeps the audience feeling like there's all these cuts building up towards something, building to a more complete scene. It increases tension in a manner resembling horror styling. For you see, Heaven's Feel is far more in the horror genre than the normal action exploits of the Fate series, and the use of constant cutting between scenes helps to emphasize that by increasing the tension of the audience. But just because there is this constant building of tension and horror feeling, doesn't mean the movie doesn't know how to do comedy. Oh, it does. That food scene with Kirei, don't even get me started. Now there's one other big thing about the movie I haven't talked about yet, and you're probably pretty sure what that is, and that is production values. God damn. The music, the soundtrack, the animation, I just can't even. The animation for Fate Zero, the first Studio Ufotable Fate adaptation, was fabulous both at the time and even at the current day, even though it has been 5 years. Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, their second adaptation, earned itself the nickname Unlimited Budget Works for its incredible production values and gorgeous animation. And as for this, well, I've been hearing the name Heaven's Fund floating around the fandom recently, and yeah, that about sums it up because I swear to God this makes Unlimited Budget Works look like Fate Zero and Fate Zero look like Dean Stay Night. That's how damn gorgeous it was. Plot-wise, well damn, we're already 13 minutes in and I haven't gotten to plot yet, but okay. It's nothing like the other 2 Stay Night branches, but again, you will need to have watched at least one of them to fully comprehend it. Other than that, all I can say is there are some plot holes and loose ends, but I'm not going to judge this too harshly for it because, again, this is only the first of 3 movies, and so I'm guessing that information will be in movies 2 and 3. If it isn't, then I'll revise my score, but for right now, assuming that it's going to continue at the same quality and pacing, the same emotional depth, and yes, the same amount of cool plot elements, I'm going to go ahead and give Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel Movie 1 Passage Flower a 5 out of a possible 5 stars. For alternate anime recommendations, let me first point you toward the one good Fate anime that isn't a prereq for this movie, and that is the currently airing Fate Apocrypha. If you're looking for another anime a bit more like Fate Zero, bringing in all these supernatural characters into the normal world and then having a psychological discussion about their motives and means, I'm going to point you toward the recently finished Recreators. And finally, if you're looking for another dark battle royale anime, I'm going to point you toward my current favorite of that genre, Juni Tyson. Wow, that makes all of my 3 recommendations as well as this video's main subject shows that came out this year. Guess it was fated to be? Well, in any case, this movie was just heavenly, and I get the feeling a lot of people will be watching it. So go enjoy that, and once you're done, come back, check out some of the other videos on my channel. If you're more interested in Fate Apocrypha, then check out my video on disability and Fate Apocrypha, what Guilty Crown did right. If you're interested in Recreators, why not check out my review of that? And if you're interested in my take on the other ongoing anime of the current fall 2017 season, please check out my video on that as well over on my channel. If If you haven't seen Heaven's Feel, please leave a comment letting me know what you're most excited for, and if you have, let me know what your favorite fight scene is and why is it the one with Ryder. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. This is Coriander Stone, and I thank you for watching.